So hello everyone, I am Emanuele Giorgi. I am a lecturer in biostatistics at Lancaster University, and I've been teaching at Ames since 2016, and recently I'm leading the effort of the RSS to develop a collaboration with this institute. So before I start, how many of you know what Ames is? Okay, so at least for the three who have not raised their hand, I'll just tell you what Ames is. So Ames is a research and educational institute with different centers across Africa. So nowadays we have there are centers in Senegal, Ghana, Cameroon, Rwanda, South Africa. There is also one in Tanzania, but recently due to some problems is not running the program for this year, and I think not even for the next year. So Ames is an opportunity, I would say, for African students to be exposed to high quality teaching. And it is a unique learning environment, and what I'm going to tell you in the the next few minutes is my experience as a lecturer at Ames. Will, who will follow me, will tell you more about his experience as a tutor. And so I don't know at what level you are in your career, but you look quite young. So I guess you are PhD students or MSc students, I don't know. I think that the learning environment at Ames is very different from what you usually see or have seen in the UK, because people come from very different educational backgrounds, and so you have some issues that are not usually present in a class here. Students choose to do Ames because they want to do further studies usually. There are some exceptional students who after Ames apply for PhDs even in the UK, and then our students I'm currently supervising 2 PhD students at Lancaster Universities from Ames Ghana and Ames Tanzania. So there is a strong diversity in terms of cultures, languages, and to be honest, that's actually what I like about Ames. So this is more specifically what I've been teaching at Ames. As you can see, this is quite advanced stuff for even for a statistical audience, which is just statistical methods for public health. I gave this course twice in Tanzania. I gave just an introductory courses to Ghana, and then in January 2018 I'm going there to again give geostatistics. I'll tell you a bit more about Cameroon because it's where now our efforts are mostly focused on. So when you go and teach at Ames, one of the most important things is that you have obviously your learning outcomes and have a clear idea of what you want to teach. But I don't think it's very clear how you're going to teach, because you don't know what the student's previous knowledge is about the matter, and you can only discover that once you are on the spot. So you cannot stick to your learning outcomes too rigidly, because you can harm the motivations of the students. So you need to be very flexible, and sometimes I would say even being able to improvise. For example, when I gave courses at Ames Ghana, not all of the students were did know R. They had the previous course, but that wasn't enough to do what I was asking them to do. So we had to run some evening workshops about R. But what I really enjoyed is that it's a 24-hour experience, and let's see. So this is like an example of what was the schedule during the week at Ames Ghana. I was teaching statistical modeling, but it doesn't mean that your job is just confined to these 2 hours. It actually extends beyond those 2 hours, and you are somehow expected to interact with the students outside the teaching lessons. And you feel exhausted. So it's a really energy demanding, mentally demanding experience, but it's also a highly rewarding experience. So in the end, you just get the weekend free, which is enough to explore the nearby areas. But if you go there, don't think you're going on holiday in Africa. Again, not sticking too rigidly to learning outcomes is very important, but also there is a higher emphasis on formative assessment rather than on summative assessment. So when I say formative assessment, it's a more loose way of assessing how people, I would say, are doing in the class, because what you really want is them to develop critical thinking and being able to understand a problem, what methods are more appropriate to address that kind of problem. So I would say you should forget the idea of having a rigid marking scheme and just sum your scores based on that marking scheme. You need to show flexibility in the way also how you assess the students. So the AIMS curriculum is divided into 3 phases. There is a skills course phase where this is a set of compulsory courses that all the students are required to attend. Then there is a review phase where there are courses that are optional and the students choose based on their preferences and interests. And then there is a research phase where there are projects, so it's like a dissertation phase in a master program in the UK, though I think this only lasts 10 weeks, so probably less than what is usually done here. So this is the structure of the program, and so it is in this structure that we have been working on in our RSS AIMS partnership. So I am leading now this collaboration with AIMS, but with the fundamental help of 6 RSS members, including Amaka. And our focus now is mostly with AIMS Cameroon, and this is the reason why is simply because the AIMS director has shown a greatest interest in embracing the RSS proposals. So the kind of service that we are currently providing to AIMS is recruitment of lecturers and tutors, curriculum design. So from the next academic year, AIMS Cameroon will adopt a curriculum that we have proposed. So as you saw before this, there is the skills phase and the review phase. And AIMS Cameroon has accepted that we propose 1 skills course and 2 review courses as 1 data science stream. So meaning that the students will not choose single courses, but they will choose the data science stream as a block of courses. And in addition to those, we can also there is still room to propose other review courses. For example, I am going there to teach on in February geostatistical methods, and that's a review course which is in addition to the 3 main courses that we have proposed. So these 3 courses are statistical problem solving, where we just teach the very basic of statistics, data visualization, descriptive statistics, and a few topics probably in probability theory. Statistical inference, it's the second course. And in this, instead, we focus on likelihood-based inference, again, probability, and also Bayesian statistics. Then we have statistical modeling, where instead the focus is on linear regression, generalized linear models, and also an introduction to stochastic process modeling. So what we are emphasizing in these 3 courses is especially the link that between each course. We think especially that there is some value in even repeating some of the same concepts and ideas, so that the students do not feel a strong discontinuity between courses. So this year our focus is with Cameroon, but we hope to extend this program once we show that this is successful also to other centers. So the added benefit of having the RSS as a sponsor for this initiative is that we can provide the coordination and more organization than there was before. Another important point that we are working on is the supervision, and I'll say a bit more now. So how can you contribute to AIMS? Well, we need tutors, lecturers, and supervisors. And so for the next academic years, I would say that there is still a need for AIMS Cameroon, there is still a need for lecturers, especially for the review phase, and we would like to give more opportunities for this. So lecturers usually are people who are postdoc or onward. So you should hold a PhD degree. This is not a formal requirement, but I would say, actually I don't know if it's a formal requirement, it may be a formal requirement, but this is at least the convention. Then we are also, so tutors usually are opportunities for 6 or 12 months, and for AIMS Cameroon this is not an issue for the next academic year, but in our recent discussions we are proposing also to have a tutor for the dissertation, for the essay phase. So when students are doing their master projects, we would also require a tutor to be there for 6 to 8 weeks to just help the students follow their statistical development, but also help them link with their supervisor, so providing also some feedback to the supervisors. And this is a post that it will, I am expecting will be advertised around October, November. Finally, we also send a separate call for projects. So if you want to do something from remote, so supervising a student from remote, this is what being a supervisor is. There are some centers that may also offer the opportunity to visit the place, but this is something that I still have to get more information about. And this usually can last between 8 to 10 weeks. Until recently, they also paid $200 to be a supervisor of one student. But again, things may change, especially because there are always financial issues to deal with. So if you are interested in one of these activities, I will send out a call, but it would also be useful to get your email address and some of your background information. So this is the link to a Google form. The link is horrible, but you can also email me if it's too difficult. And I will also make the slides available through the YSS. So I look forward to your questions. Thank you.
So I'm Will Hulme. I'm currently a postdoc at the University of Manchester. Previously I was doing a PhD at the University of Manchester, and sort of between those two things I was working at AIMS in Cameroon for 6 months from January to June earlier this year. So Emanuele's talked about what AIMS is and what they do. I'll probably add that the Taught Masters course is the flagship program, but actually they are involved in a lot of other things locally. So they do teacher training for maths education and outreach in schools to encourage people to get into maths. And there's also an academic research program on site in the building, which is here, you can't see it. And that's currently run by Giselle Mofu, who is professor of something or other, and she has a couple of PhD students who she works with. Yeah, so my involvement with AIMS was basically through this partnership, obviously, this AIMS RSS partnership. I heard about it a couple of years ago and sort of was interested, but it wasn't the right time. And then I was coming towards the end of my PhD, which was due to end at the end of January earlier this year. I sort of wasn't finished, and I knew I wouldn't be finished at that point. So I thought I'd go to Cameroon for 6 months and kick back, you know, finish off my PhD, tie up a few loose ends, maybe start a few other projects that had interested me throughout my PhD, and you know, every now and again I'd pop downstairs and do some tutoring. Obviously, it was nothing like that. I did manage to finish my PhD, but most of the other stuff just fell by the wayside. Actually, originally I was set to go to Ames, Tanzania, when I first contacted Jane Hutton, who is here, but she's not in the room, who was basically in Emanuele's role before Emanuele took over. I was all set to go to Tanzania, and then they lost the funding, as has been alluded to. And practically in the same email, they said, but there might be an opportunity for you to go to Cameroon. So I sort of made a bit of a show of, oh, okay, well, I'll do my research about Cameroon and, you know, make sure that it's the right thing for me and so on. But I mean, I was very happy to go wherever. So I emailed back later that day and said, yeah, sure. And they were happy to have me, so it was all quite an informal process. I don't know what things will be like if any of you guys want to do that, but for me it was all quite straightforward. Obviously, once you agree to go, you have to sort your visas out and you have to sort your jabs and everything and insurance and all those sort of things. But so I organised all those things, but RSS paid for those for me and flights as well. So I wasn't out of pocket from doing this. Okay, so Cameroon, this is Cameroon. This is where the centre is in Ames, so this is along the coast. Douala's where you'll fly into. It's the biggest city, but or sort of joint biggest with Yaoundé, which is the capital, which is further east. So it's on the coast. This drive is about an hour and a half, but there's works on this bridge here, which make that hour and a half into about 4 or 5 hours because the roadworks are absolutely crazy. It's quite a nice drive. All this is kind of plantations, so bananas and plantains and palm fruit and things like that. And then as you get about here, you start to see the views of Mount Cameroon, which is this thing, and yeah, it's spectacular. And from Limbe, if it's clear skies, you can see it all the time. In fact, this is Mount Cameroon. Okay, so yeah, this is Limbe. Again, this is Mount Cameroon. This is the road up to Ames, which the building is just here. This is the view from the tutor's house, one of the rooms out of the tutor's house, which is this big sort of empty shell with a bed in every room and some cooking instruments in one of the rooms and a telly in another giant room with nothing else in it. So it's sort of basic, but it's very nice. Yeah, and you get some nice views. The centre's just sort of 10 minutes up the road. This is the centre itself, and this is the research centre. So the centre is, it was a hotel, and it's being rented by Ames at the moment at some extortionate cost. And they've built this newly built research centre on top. So if you're a lecturer going, it's very likely that you'll stay here. It's quite nice inside. The students stay in these rooms at the front, two to a room. The lecturers and the offices and stuff are out the back, and the canteens on the bottom and things. And then, like I said, the tutors are in a different building up the road, which is, you know, it's basic, but it's fine. But it would be nice if it was more like the lecturer's place. This is my office, and that's me. So yeah, this is. So I'll talk a bit about him. Emanuele's talked a bit about the structure of the course and things, but I'll go over those other things if they've not been covered already. So when I was there were 47 students from 17 different countries. So it's in Cameroon, but actually only about a third, or no, less than a third, maybe, I don't know, a fifth or something from Cameroon. And the rest were from elsewhere in West Africa. Lots of students came over from East Africa and Madagascar, and also there's 4 or 5 students from North Africa, Egypt and Sudan. So this is just students decided to draw the flags of their countries one day. Egypt is one student, but Maya got a bit carried away and decided to do a very big flag. And there's a polite request here for the flags from those students who weren't represented in this on this board. But yeah, I thought this was a really nice picture. So the students are fully funded. They get it's a taught masters course, residential. They all live on site. They have 3 meals a day. They get a small monthly stipend. It used to be bigger than it was. I think the previous year it was, I don't know, it was equivalent to $100 a month or something. And when I was there, that had been dropped to about $25 a month, which is, they lost some funding, and that's the first thing that got cut, which is a shame. And it meant that the students were less independent. They couldn't go out every week if they were just had a bit of cabin fever or something. They couldn't go down the road to get just to eat out or something. They really only had money for the basics. So hopefully next year. But before I left, the $100 per month was reinstated. So hopefully that'll still be going in the next year. But yeah, they have everything they need, even if they don't have everything they want. The students. 3 meals a day. This is a biased sample. These are the ones that I took because they didn't look appetizing. This is actually really nice. This is so these are plantains. You can see. This is ndole, which is like a local Cameroonian dish. It's this sort of spinachy thing, and they mix it with prawns or meat and yam sometimes, things like that, and sometimes it's quite nice. This one wasn't so nice. But yeah, they also, the food is often, it can be very nice. It's sort of half Cameroonian dishes and then like, I don't know, European dishes. So you might get spaghetti bolognese one night and then ndole the next morning, whatever. Fortunately, I was a tutor and I was getting paid generously, and I was getting more money than I could spend. So it was nice to be able to go out and eat elsewhere sometimes. This is the zoo, which is a stone's throw from the centre at Ames, the Wildlife Centre, and they have all sorts of different primates there, and it's supposed to be this sort of one of the better centres for primates, and they look after them and rehabilitate them and so on. And they also have an on-site cafe, which is absolutely amazing. So yeah, that's nice. Okay, yeah, so we've kind of covered this already, but the way that it works for the students is there are teaching blocks that run in three-week cycles. The students, this is on so they do the review courses, the skills courses, where there's no choice in the courses, and then there's the review courses where they choose 2 of 3 courses that are running in parallel. So over 3 weeks they do 2 courses, usually 5 quizzes, usually 2 assessments and a group project at the end. And yeah, you've seen the sort of timetable that we're looking at. What hasn't been mentioned is there's other things as well. There's language classes, and there's this thing called Give Back, which I'll move on to, and other events that happen throughout the day and throughout the week that are sort of compulsory for the students to engage with and attend. So it's not just the lectures that they have to be thinking about. There's a lot of other commitments that they take on as well. So skills courses, that includes computing and language classes. There was a week where someone came over and offered sort of careers advice and interview advice and CV writing and all that sort of stuff, which was quite useful. So they sit and work together and do what they need to do. There's also seminars. So typically, this is for any prospective lecturers, typically each lecture will deliver an evening seminar, which is apart from the course that they're delivering, and it's just maybe an hour, or half an hour about the research that they're doing. So, not assessed or anything, it's just like a talk, and they can, and if the students are interested in that research area, it's an opportunity for them to learn a bit more and ask questions and so on. Fernand, who sat at the front, he always has like 2 or 3 questions every time. It's incredible. Like most of the students are asleep, and he's like wide awake. There's always one. Yeah, it's amazing. This guy, I've forgotten his name. He was a former Ames student, so he graduated in 2017, and now he's doing a PhD in Germany. And he came back, not just to give a talk, for some other reason as well. something with Giselle at the research centre, some collaboration. Anyway, he gave a talk about his PhD, and that was really interesting. Obviously, a sort of, you know, the lecturers can be a nice person for the students to aspire to, but often there's a lot going on in between them being a student at Ames and getting to the position that they may want to be, whereas this guy's come straight out of Ames, he's doing a PhD, he's a sort of more direct line of inspiration for them to look to and ask him questions about how he did it and all the rest of it. So it's great when he came, and there was a couple more who were doing similar things. There's also a distinguished guest. So this is Cedric Villani, who is quite heavily involved with Ames. He often gives lectures. I think he used to lecture sort of at the full blocks, but he hasn't got time for that anymore now that he's involved in politics now in France. But he came for a couple of days. No, just for one day actually. He was at some big meeting in Cameroon with Ames, and then came along to the centre to give a talk, 2 talks. And he's a field medalist, so this guy's, you know, held in high esteem. He's a very important figure in sort of modern mathematics and so on. And this is just like the smallest sample of selfies that were taken with him, or like the student lining up for, you know, whilst he was trying to leave, just badgering him for photos. So he's sort of looking quite happy there, but as you sort of scroll through, the smile softens. Anyway, yeah, so it was great when he came. There was a lot of enthusiasm. Sports. This is the view from my office balcony. This is the research centre that I've seen from the back, and then the main building's here. And this is the sort of courtyard, which so sometimes people. So on Wednesdays, there's usually something sporty that happens. This is Coffee, and he's one of the tutors, and he's sort of doing an exercise class or something. We also play football in here, which is awful. It's like not a square pitch. You fall over and there's blood everywhere. But yeah, it's fine. It doesn't seem to put anyone off. I ruined my shoes within a week of starting. Give Back. I haven't got a proper picture for Give Back, so this is just some nice plants on site. Give Back is a weekly activity where the students give back in some way to their local society. So the idea is they're being funded, fully funded for this course, and they should be grateful. So they're encouraged to get involved in various things. So that might just involve cleaning the blackboards or things like that, or it can be a bit more interesting. Like one time they went to one of the local hospitals and gave sort of IT training to staff, because they're all very comfortable with computers, but a lot of the local nurses will never use a computer before. So things like that. Again, it's usually quite interesting for them, but when they've got so many other things to do, it can really sort of cut into their time. So it can be exhausting. Yeah, it's intense. This is the crazy corridor, as the students called it, where they put up blackboards, and this is probably, I don't know, 11 p.m. or something, preparing for an assignment or revising for a quiz or whatever, and they just, usually, most of the students will be working very late and will sleep very little until the end of the block, and then it's sort of, they'll be in bed for the whole day. Yeah, so it can be very tiring. Time management is part of the issue. They maybe don't know how to manage their time to revise well. I mean, this is not exclusive to students at Ames. I'm sure this is true for undergraduates, postgraduates everywhere. But they'll cram. They'll work inefficiently. They won't, allow themselves time to relax and all this sort of thing. So you sort of get dragged into that because you're around and they have questions for you all the time and so on, which is fine. That's why I'm there. Okay, so tutors. This is most of us. There's a couple of faces missing, but there was a bit of an overlap with some people coming and going, but most of the time there was 8 tutors available, including me. So we're around for the students to, I mean, it's all very loosely defined what the tutors are there to do, and sometimes it changes from course to course depending on the lecturer's preferences and so on. But basically, we mark assignments, we help the lecturers settle in because they're there for 3 weeks, so they've only got a short amount of time to sort of get used to everything and know what's going on and know what's normal and what's not normal and so on. So we help the lecturers. We also help them adapt materials for the students to ensure that it's going to please as many people as possible. So some students have a very high ability and or have had a good undergraduate education. Some might have a very high ability but have had a very poor undergraduate education. You know, African higher education is notoriously unreliable depending on universities or even within universities. So you don't really know what you're going to get for any given student. And then there's obviously some students who, you know, are neither, and maybe don't work hard enough and so on. But you know, it's the same as any cohort of students on a higher education course. So, but obviously there's a lot more variability here because of the students' background, educational background. So, so it's something you definitely have to account for, and you have to help the lecturers deal with. So that might include running additional tutorials in the evening to help get certain students up to speed. It might be cutting certain things out of the notes, or it might be out of the materials, or adding things in, or whatever. It's just to make sure that everybody is at least getting something from the courses. So I've got a maths degree. I then, from what seems like was years ago, and then did a master's, and then I was working as a statistician for a few years in the NHS, and then I started my PhD 4 years ago, and that brings me to here. But I mean, this is fine, but the point is, if you're intimidated by this, then you won't succeed as a tutor at Ames. There was a lot of pure maths being taught at Ames, which, you know, I'm not familiar with, except from a course that I didn't enjoy at university. So, which is fine, and I was sort of, the tutors are always assigned to the courses that most suit their skills. So, you know, when I arrived, I was on a sort of an advanced stats course, which was a bit tricky, and I sort of had to keep one step ahead because I'd all forgotten it all. But, you know, it was okay, and I could help the students, and that was fine. And then some were absolutely fine, and some I really did struggle because there was nothing that suited me at all, and I just sort of had to slot in and do the best I could. If you don't have a maths degree, it's fine, but you have to be comfortable looking at this and not, you know, running out the room, and you have to know calculus, and you have to know, you know, linear algebra and those sorts of things. That might change. I don't know what the curriculum might be in the future, and I know there's a recognition that lots of the pure maths courses that are being delivered aren't necessarily appropriate for getting a job, you know, after getting your master's. And there's a recognition that perhaps some of the students would benefit a lot more from having more applied courses delivered. And in that case, maybe in future, a tutor who doesn't have any solid maths background, but is very capable data analyst, you know, programmer, whatever, perhaps then that would be okay in future. I'm not the person to ask about that. You could ask Marco, who's the centre director, or possibly via Emanuele or something. But it's something to bear in mind. It is a master's degree, so you need to know maths. I know this is a stats conference, so that's why I'm emphasising that. So Limbe is in the English-speaking region of Cameroon, which is two of 12 regions are English-speaking. The rest are French-speaking. In Limbe, they speak English. Most of the locals will speak at least 2 of Pidgin English, English, and French. I never had any trouble communicating with anyone because everybody could muddle by in English. I mean, I was never 100%, but you know, it's fine. usually I just couldn't understand what they were saying because it was a heavy accent. I mean, that's like most of the challenge. But about, well, over a third of the students were francophone, so they came from Cameroon, from the French-speaking part of Cameroon, or from Senegal, or from Benin, or wherever, these French-speaking places. And it was very common for French to be spoken throughout the centre. All the courses have to be delivered in English. All official communication, emails and all this sort of thing, that's English. But French is spoken casually amongst a lot of the students. But I mean, by the time I got there, they'd been there for 3 months. They have daily language classes, English or French, as needed. And everybody's English was fine, apart from 1 or 2 students who were still struggling by the time I arrived, but by the end they were absolutely fine. So yeah, you don't need to know French. I didn't know any. I know a bit of French, but not really enough to have a proper conversation with people. I can read signs, but and if someone's talking at me, I can kind of get what they're saying, but I wasn't really speaking it very much, and you should be fine. But it does help, because especially if you want to travel away from Limbe. There was one case of a lecturer coming. He was from Burkina Faso, and he thought that his course was a French course to be delivered in French because he was coming to Cameroon. That's kind of the limit of what he knew about his. I think he was replacing someone else who'd done it last year. So he started speaking French, and obviously he's like, whoa. This is really, he needs to do it in English. So he sort of muddled by in English. And his English was better than my French, but it wasn't very good. But it was actually, it was pure maths, so it was all kind of equation stuff anyway. A lot of the terms, a lot of the maths terms that develop in English are sort of taken from the French anyway. It was it was fine. It was quite funny actually. But yeah, if you know French, then it can be a help, but don't worry if you don't. Be prepared to do things differently. You're in Cameroon, so it's not like you're in the UK. Certain things will be different. Certain things that are completely normal here are not normal here. Completely normal in Cameroon and not normal here. So you just have to be aware of those things and know what's going on and know whether it's okay or not and everything like that. And this is, completely typical and absolutely fine. Be prepared to change your plans. So I don't know if you can see that, but this is a fallen. These are actually. So we thought they were power lines. So we were sort of, but they're actually. I think it was TV. Telephone lines, so they're fine if you touch them. And I didn't have a telephone in the house anyway, so it didn't bother me. But this sort of stuff is normal. So you'll have power outages and you'll have water outages, and the internet will go down, and flights will be delayed, and people coming from Douala will be delayed, which means that the scheduling that's all been carefully planned is just suddenly out of the water, and then you have to have double sessions and all this sort of stuff. So, things just sort of happen, that's what happens, and you have to be prepared for that, and you have to not be perturbed by that, and you have to be able to deal with it. That's just get on with it. That's part of the reason why students possibly find it so difficult to organise their time well, because there's no point in planning for things when it's just going to be all up in the air anyway. And also time, I don't want to generalise. Speaking of time, we doing all right? Yeah. It's a sort of treated differently, or in my experience when I was in Cameroon, time is a kind of a different thing. It's not valued in the same way that I would value time. So, the example that I like the story that I like to tell is we're getting in a taxi. We're hailing a taxi to go to the beach on a Saturday or something, which is like a nice beach 4 or 5 miles up the road. And the cost for the taxi to the beach per person is 700 francs. That's like the known price. And you can get 5 in a taxi, 2 in the front seat, and 3 in the back. You can maybe get 4, sometimes that happens. Plus the driver. 5 if you include, anyway. And Asefa, who was a tutor, my office mate, he was negotiating on behalf of us all for these taxis that come by. So this is like, it was something like 3 or 4 in the afternoon. Bear in mind at 6:30 it's pitch black because you're on the equator, so the sun just drops. So it's 4 o'clock and we want to get to the beach and have a good hour or something and come back before it's dark and in time for dinner. And Asef is negotiating on behalf of us, and he knows 700 is the price, but he thinks because there's 5 of us getting in, that 400, 500 is probably a reasonable thing to ask for, you know, group discount and all the rest of it. So he's hailing, and then he's arguing these people with a taxi driver, and he doesn't like it, so he drives off. And then he gets the next guy, and he doesn't like the price, so he drives off. And 700, okay, for 700 francs is about, I don't know, £1.20 or something. It's nothing, you know, it's like, I don't care, I want to go to the beach, I don't care, you know. So I'm standing by the taxi getting sunburned, just like, honestly, please, let's just go. Let's just go to the beach. I'll pay double, I'll pay for everyone. But Asef is like, no, like, on principle. So in his head, the time thing wasn't like, I'm willing to wait an hour to get the right price. And it's infuriating sometimes, it's not just Asef, it's you notice it with a lot of the people you meet. We did go to the beach, yeah, eventually, and we got a cheap price, but we spent about 15 minutes there and had to come back. Yeah, so that's those little cultural differences you kind of just have to be aware of and get used to. Yeah, if you're there as a lecturer for 3 weeks, then you know, maybe it'll be funny and fine, but if you're there for 6 months, it can sort of weigh you down. But you get, like, you'll get used to it. Yeah, so it's not, okay, so the next is just a load of pictures. It is very hard work, and it's usually sort of 12-hour days and things, and there's constant demands on your time from lecturers and from the students and from other things that just come up ad hoc. But it is incredibly fun and a really rewarding experience, and you do get to do a lot of other things. Like, so this is a lecture room that we turned into a cinema. So one of the lecturers came over, he had a talk on gravitation, and so we watched Interstellar, which was nice. He thought it'd be a nice thing to do, and it was. And then since then, a lot of the students would watch films and stuff on the thing. This is the telly in the corner of the room at the tutor's place. So I don't know who cares about football, but in the UK you can't watch football on telly when it's the 3 o'clock kickoff because of rules. But in Africa you can. So it's brilliant. I can watch any game I want. And there's loads of football channels, so that was nice. This is at the beach. That's Asefa, the hard bargaining taxi guy that I was telling you about. Often playing drafts with various people who want to play. Going out for food or drinks. This is the local chicken place, which is just around the corner. I'm not sure who took this picture. You'll notice, I think that's my plate. And you'll notice the red stuff is untouched because it's hot. It's really, really hot. And I just couldn't touch it. But everyone else was just, wolfing it down. More pepe, more pepe. That's incredible. I don't know. Anyway, that's really nice. There's lots of places to go for drinks and go for food, and it's all, reasonably priced. So, go and enjoy yourself when you get the chance. So my family came to visit. That's my brother, in the sort of jungle in the foothills of Mount Cameroon, which we climbed. This is mini Mount Cameroon, which is a sort of smaller peak, sort of towards the coast from the main mountain. It looks very nice. This is some weird tree that I saw. Beaches, touristy things, which if you're there for long enough, you'll get the chance to do. Or even as a lecturer, you can take an extra week and go traveling, whatever. Yeah, it's really nice. You make a lot of friends. So this is graduation. This is the sort of tutor's offices, the row. So this is my office mate, Asefa, and this is a fabric that you can buy really nice fabrics and just get them tailored, and it all comes to about £5 or something. It's great. Sorry? Yeah. These are some of the more tutors. This is Pascal, one of the students. I'm not sure why we took that picture. Yeah, and then obviously at the end of it all, the students graduate, and they don't look very happy there, but I think, I mean, it was a great afternoon. It went on for a long time. There was a lot of various people wanting to have their say, and it went on for hours before anything before they got their scroll and all the rest of it. But yeah, it was great. Really nice day, and very well deserved for almost all of the students. But yeah, that's it. So I wrote a blog about my experiences. It was published on the RSS website, on the Stats Life website. It's also here. Yeah, that's my email if you want to ask. Twitter. Yeah, that's it, and I'm happy to answer any questions.